It's not just the answers, not just the quotes. It's life in the margins. It's time for Cluffs Notes.
Making sense.
I'm not sure if you realize this about me, but I am one of those people who has to try to make sense of things that don't make sense. And if I'm being honest, I think it came from a lot of just a life that didn't make a lot of sense. Because throughout my life, there have been these parts, like with childhood trauma, my whole intense religious upbringing and that foundation, those disconnects within myself with my identity, they did not line up in the way that I was taught they should. And the interesting thing is I could feel the incongruence, that misalignment. I could feel it way before I ever could find the language for it. But when my mind got involved with something, I realized I always face these same choices. Do I compartmentalize it, ignore it, or do I explore it? Start asking questions, try to see if I can make more sense of it. And honestly, I've done both throughout my life as I've wrestled with some deep and painful incongruences. I learned that processing and reflecting, they help make life more meaningful for me, more aligned, and honestly, more manageable. And here's another little nerdy fact about me that I like. Ideation is a natural strength of mine. I look for connections everywhere to help me settle things in my head. I've always been drawn to those things that can somehow simplify complex things. They help me just make better sense of it, like metaphors, comparisons, analogies, pictures, stories, those mnemonic devices. When I can connect something mentally in a simple way, my understanding deepens. Those pictures in my sketchbook are examples of how my brain tries to explore and find patterns. And honestly, the more complex or confusing something is, the more I have to intentionally slow down. Whether it's a misalignment in a system, something that's just unexpectedly triggered me, I found that if I really want to make sense of it, I have to move from this reactive side and into reflection. When I dealt with some of the more difficult and honestly traumatic parts of my life, I found I've always needed to talk to humans. People I trust, family, friends, counselors. I know as humans, we are designed to need each other. And so I appreciate that AI can help provide some perspective, but it will never replace my deep natural need for humanity. And honestly, most reflections that I do on my own. If you live with me, you would definitely hear me say things like, I'll be right back. I need to go for a quick walk and record something that I'm processing. Michael often will joke. He's like, I don't know if you're on the phone or just in there talking to yourself because I know myself and what I need. And you'll hear me say things like, okay, talking just helps my brain stay focused. That's why I've done it for years. Or look, here's the sketch. It explains it way better than my words. Or I think better when I'm driving. I knew what I did. I just didn't know what was actually happening, like when I did it. And then something happened, though, that helped change that.
Getting stuck.
Earlier this year, when I was working through a challenging project for this client, I got stuck. Not only stuck on my task, there was something deeper, like a roadblock in my thinking. There were these odd emotional signals that were there too. And honestly, I couldn't make sense why. And so I did what I've learned to do when I get stuck. I stepped back and I reflected, knowing that eventually my thinking would settle. But this time I did something just a little different. Instead of just using reflection to help me get unstuck with that task, I got curious. I decided to be a little meta. I wanted to understand why reflection helps me settle when I'm stuck. So instead of immediately processing my client's task, I started processing my processing. I was curious about things like, okay, why does reflection help me when I'm stuck? What actually helps me move forward? Are there things I'm doing, maybe intentionally or even unintentionally, that are helping? So I slowed down and I paid attention. And I pulled out my sketchbook and I found myself capturing questions and keywords and drawing out ideas and processing examples with AI and connecting these images and language and refining my thinking. And through the process, as I hoped, I started to understand more about how my thinking actually works. And I could see that these reflections were helping me slow my thinking down.
Another reel for the shelf.